Hi, my name is Jessica Morgan. If you've ever thought that family is supposed to be your safe haven, listen to my story. Because sometimes the deepest wounds are dealt by those closest to us. This is my journey, a woman who was broken, lost in despair, forced to fall, but who got back up, stronger than ever. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above the grand hall of Benbridge Jeweler, right in the heart of Seattle. Tonight the place is buzzing with my sister's 35th birthday party, Alexis Morgan. The scene is dazzling, soft piano music, guests dressed to impress, everyone smiling and raising a glass. At the end of the room, a massive digital sign reads, "Happy 35th birthday, Alexis Morgan," a quiet reminder of my family's status and power in Queen Anne. I, Jessica Morgan, stood off to the side, clutching a small gift wrapped in silver paper. My pastel blue dress was simple, and, by pure accident, it looked a lot like Alexis's glamorous designer gown, only without the label or the price tag. Alexis's friends noticed. They started whispering, some raising their phones to film the sisters in matching dresses. Alexis walked over, red lipstick, perfect golden curls, her eyes cool and sharp as she looked me up and down. "Jessica, what a coincidence! I had my dress custom made, and you managed to find a copy, huh?" Laughter erupted. I felt awkward trying to hide the little gift in my hands. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Before I could finish, Alexis snatched the box and tore the wrapping open, pulling out a simple engraved pen, the one I'd saved up for weeks to buy. She held it high for everyone to see. "Wow, look at this, everyone. My little sister got me a pen. That's about as creative as it gets, right?" The laughter spread. Cameras and phones pointed at me. Alexis wasn't done. She turned to the crowd. "Does everyone remember when Jessica got dumped last year, in public? Oh, and she was unemployed for months. Our family is just too much fun, right?" Some guests laughed. Others started live streaming it on Instagram and Facebook. I froze, staring at the floor. Even my mom, Helen, just shook her head and sighed. "Jessica, you've embarrassed me again." My father looked away, silent. Then, out of nowhere, Alexis leaned in and hissed just loud enough for the mic to catch. "You don't think I'd do it?" And before I could react, she slapped me, hard, right there in front of everyone. The entire hall went silent for a heartbeat. Then came the whispers, the stares, the phones filming my tear-streaked face. I bent down to pick up the pen box off the floor, feeling my world crumble around me. In that moment, all I wanted was to disappear. But I never imagined that very night would be the beginning of a whole new life. My name is Jessica Morgan. I was born and raised in Queen Anne, Seattle, a quiet, leafy neighborhood where old houses line the streets, expensive cars are parked in every driveway, and cocktail parties are a weekend tradition. The Morgan family, my family, isn't ultra-wealthy, but we've always been respected, thanks to our reputation, education, and class passed down for generations. But behind that polished exterior, no one ever saw the cracks growing deeper year after year. My older sister, Alexis Morgan, was always the pride of our family. She's beautiful and brilliant, graduated with top honors from the University of Washington, and became the youngest lawyer at a prestigious firm. Every time someone mentioned Alexis, my mom would light up, repeating the same stories: the state debate trophy she won, the local TV interviews, the magazine covers featuring her smile. For my mother, Helen, Alexis was the standard, the blueprint for every other child to follow. Me, I was the opposite. Quiet, bookish, more of an introvert. I loved reading, watching Seattle's rainy days from my window, and working in marketing at a small company. But I was never the center of attention. When I brought home an award from school, my mom would only nod and say, "That's nice. Try to keep up with your sister." My dad, Richard, was the branch manager at Chase Bank. Calm, composed, always busy with work, networking events, and long business trips. For him, success meant being strong, standing out, never showing weakness, never making mistakes. My memories of family are dinner tables set with delicious food, but always with an awkward silence. Alexis at the head of the table, talking about some big project at her office, mom hanging on to every word, dad checking his phone, asking a question or two before tuning out. And me? Most of the time, I'd just sit quietly, listening, occasionally trying to slip in a story from work or something I liked. But almost always, the conversation would shift back to Alexis, or just skip over me entirely. In our old Queen Anne house, everything had to be perfect. Pristine white walls, shiny leather sofas, family photos arranged just so down the hallway, and most of all, Alexis's awards and certificates, all framed and hung front and center in the living room. Whenever friends or neighbors visited, Mom would show off her pride corner, while I'd smile and pretend not to care. But deep down it stung because I'd never truly been seen for myself. I was just Alexis's little sister, always standing in the shadows. As I got older, that distance between me and my family grew. I kept working hard, good grades, a stable job, always on time, never any scandals, nothing for anyone to complain about. But every little win of mine got compared to Alexis, or was just overshadowed by her spotlight. I got used to feeling not enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not special enough to really matter. On my worst nights, I'd drive the winding hills of Queen Anne, staring out at the city lights, wondering, was I born just to be someone else's background? For years, I tried to be patient. I kept hoping that one day I'd be noticed, that maybe I'd finally be loved and accepted for who I really am. But the harder I tried, the clearer it became. Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from what you lack. It comes from not being truly seen or valued by the people you love most. Everything unraveled that night, right there at Alexis's 35th birthday party. Honestly, I was never a fan of parties, especially big fancy ones. Crowds always made me anxious. But for me, no matter how invisible I felt, I still wanted a place in my family. That's why I'd saved up for months, just to buy a small gift. I hoped, maybe this time, Alexis would actually feel the sincerity behind it. I walked into Benbridge Jeweler, clutching my simple gift box, my heart pounding. Most of the guests were Alexis's friends, lawyers, young entrepreneurs, the kinds of people my mom always called golden connections for the future. They wore designer dresses, sparkling jewelry, looked confident and radiant. Me? I stood out for all the wrong reasons in my simple light blue dress. I felt so out of place it almost made me laugh. The party was buzzing. I edged closer to the table, hoping for a friendly nod, a smile from my sister. But Alexis only glanced at me with cool indifference, then turned back to her friends, laughing and chatting. No one paid any attention to me, except Emily, my only close friend, who managed to text me a single line. "Hang in there, Jess. No matter what, I believe in you." Then came the gift giving. One by one, people handed Alexis extravagant presents, Cartier watches, Chanel perfume, diamond necklaces. When it was my turn, the room grew noticeably quiet. Alexis took the box from me, her smile fake and bright, and opened it in front of everyone. She saw the engraved silver pen and burst out laughing, her voice ringing out. "Oh wow, my little sister is still such a saver. Okay, I'll take it. Maybe I'll use it to sign my next $1 million contract." The whole room laughed. Some people raised their phones to record, others whispered, "That's the Morgans for you. Each of them is unique." My face burned. I struggled to keep my composure, my hands trembling. But Alexis didn't stop. She turned back to the crowd and kept going. "Remember last year? Jessica was unemployed for months and her boyfriend dumped her right on Facebook. Mom was so upset back then." Someone in the crowd faked sympathy, only to join in the laughter a moment later. My mom, Helen, didn't defend me at all. She just shot me a look full of disappointment. My dad quietly slipped outside to take a call, not even bothering to witness the rest. But the worst part, the moment I'll never forget, was when Alexis suddenly stepped right up to me. For a split second, it felt like everything slowed down, every eye in the room fixed on me. Alexis leaned in and whispered coldly, "You really think I won't do it?" Before I could even process it, she slapped me. Hard. The sound echoed in my head. Everything blurred. The whole room went silent except for the cameras clicking, a few gasps, and the sharp, burning pain spreading across my face. I stood there, tears filling my eyes, humiliation and hurt mixing inside me. I wanted to run, to hide, but my feet were glued to the floor. My eyes met my mother's. She just shook her head, her lips pressed tight. I knew, once again, I was the family disappointment. I bent down to pick up the pen box that had fallen at my feet, feeling completely exposed, embarrassed, and alone. Maybe, in that moment, I had never felt so small, so weak, so utterly worthless in my entire life. After that party, I was nothing more than a shadow drifting through the crowd. No one turned to look back at me. Leaving Benbridge Jeweler, I couldn't even remember how I got home. The streetlights of Seattle blurred in the drizzle, cars passing by as if everyone was too busy with their own lives to notice a girl who'd just been humiliated in front of the entire city. Once I got home, I slammed my bedroom door shut, ignoring the sound of my mother's footsteps in the hallway. I collapsed onto my bed, hugging my knees, fighting to hold back the endless tears. The light in my room cast my shadow small and lonely across the white wall. Outside my window, Seattle was still soaked in cold rain. Somewhere I could hear the wind chimes knocking together, a sad, hollow sound that echoed exactly how I felt inside. A text from Emily popped up on my phone. "Jess, I'm here if you need to talk." I stared at the words, wanting to reply, but in the end, I just stayed silent. I didn't want anyone to see how weak I was, and I especially didn't want to worry my best friend. For the next few days, I barely left my room. I made excuses about feeling sick to avoid having dinner with my family. Every so often, Mom would knock and leave a short message. "Jessica, I hope you're thinking about what you did. This family can't handle another embarrassment." I just stayed quiet, burying myself under the blankets, letting the silent tears fall. I scrolled through social media. Everyone seemed to be talking about the slap at the party. Some mocked me, others acted like they pitied me. Comments like, "Jessica just never fits in with that family. Alexis is a star, Jessica's just the backdrop." Reading every line felt like someone was squeezing my heart. Sometimes I thought about leaving Seattle, just disappearing. But where would I go? When I couldn't even find peace in my own family, what hope did I have of finding it anywhere else? My dad didn't say anything. He buried himself in work, acting like I didn't even exist. Dinner was rushed, filled with awkward silences and averted eyes. Alexis vanished completely, living her own glamorous life, never once sending me a message to apologize. On some nights, I'd sit by the window, listening to the rain, asking myself, if I disappeared, would anyone even notice? Would anyone care? Memories of my childhood flashed in my mind. A little Jessica, hopeful, excited for every small achievement. But the older I got, the more I realized, in this house, weakness was never accepted. Day after day, I withdrew further, curling up inside the safe shell I built for myself, only texting Emily and pretending I was fine so Mom wouldn't worry. But honestly, I'd never felt so lonely, so hopeless, and so completely lost. I told myself, maybe this is what rock bottom feels like. If there's anywhere lower to fall, maybe I wouldn't feel anything at all. What I didn't know was that from this very darkness, the very first seeds of change were starting to take root, quietly, deep inside me. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. Sunlight streamed softly through my window as I sat on my bed, knees pulled to my chest, watching raindrops cling to the glass. Days had passed since that fateful birthday party, but my life still felt frozen, every bit of hope nearly snuffed out in my mind. Every morning I'd wake up and ask myself, why am I still here? Will my life always be nothing but disappointment? Suddenly my phone buzzed. It was a long message from Emily. "Jess, I know you're hurting and exhausted, but I've been there too. Mocked, lost, unsure of myself. You were the one who pulled me out of the darkness when I wanted to drop out of school. You told me to be brave and live my own life, remember? Now, give yourself the same chance you once gave me." I read her message over and over, tears running down my face, but this time they didn't taste bitter. Deep inside, something new stirred, a strange feeling of gratitude, a small flicker of hope. And for the first time in days, I felt what real care truly means. Emily invited me to a personal development seminar sponsored by Pioneer X, held at Storyville Coffee, the little cafe where I'd always dreamed of writing a book someday. At first I hesitated. I was scared of facing a crowd again, but Emily gently insisted, "Let me see you step out of the darkness, even just once." So I agreed. That morning I put on a simple gray jacket, barely any makeup, and told myself, "Just go, you don't have to please anyone." Storyville Coffee was warm, filled with the smell of freshly roasted beans. The seminar room was small, the lights soft and yellow, which helped calm my nerves. Emily stayed by my side, whispering, "If you get overwhelmed, I'm here." The speaker was Oliver Bennett, the CEO of Pioneer X, famous in the Seattle tech scene, an inspiration to so many young people. He shared his own story of failure, how friends had turned their backs on him, how he'd lost everything but never gave up. For the first time in my life, I realized maybe my failures weren't so terrible after all. After the talk, Emily nudged me to share my own thoughts. My hands shook as I took the microphone, but I told myself to try, just once. I used to think failing was the worst thing that could happen, until I realized the real pain is being dismissed by your own family. I want to find my self-worth again. I want to prove to myself that I'm not invisible. To my surprise, Mr. Bennett nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "Thank you, Jessica. Your honesty means more than any achievement. If you ever want a new opportunity, reach out to me." That encouragement and the trusting look in Emily's eyes felt like magic. It made me want to change. That night, I stood in front of my mirror for a long time. I still saw a Jessica who was hurting, but now there was a glimmer of resolve in her eyes, a hint of determination. The very next day, I applied for a marketing position at Pioneer X. For the first time, I didn't ask my mother's opinion, and I didn't care what Alexis might think. I told myself, if I don't start, I'll never get the chance to move forward. When the confirmation emails arrived, I shook with nerves. But this time, instead of fear, I felt alive, for the first time in years. And that was a feeling I wanted to hold on to after so long just barely getting by. Applying to Pioneer X was a huge turning point for me. Those first days waiting for a response, I felt both anxious and excited, a feeling I hadn't experienced in so long. When the interview invitation finally came, my heart raced like a girl taking her first steps toward a long-held dream. The interview was at the Russell Investment Center, a name that alone inspires awe in so many people. I prepared every detail from my resume to how I would present myself, but deep down, the fear of rejection kept gnawing at me. Sitting in the waiting room, I caught my reflection in the glass and whispered to myself, "Jessica, this time, do it for you." My interviewer was Melissa Grant, the HR director, and a woman known for being tough and demanding. From the very first questions, I could feel her skepticism. Melissa scrutinized every line of my CV, pointed out the gaps during my unemployed months, asked about those tiny projects I'd worked on, and finally challenged me with a pointed question. "What makes you think you stand out enough for Pioneer X when your resume isn't all that remarkable?" I took a deep breath and answered with complete honesty, "Maybe I don't have the shining achievements of other candidates, but I know what it's like to fight through failure and to rebuild my self-worth from nothing." Melissa kept her cool demeanor, thanked me, and showed me to the door with a polite, indifferent smile. The days that followed were torturous. Hope and fear twisted together. There were moments when I truly thought I wasn't good enough, moments when I wanted to give up. But then I remembered what Emily once told me, if you never try, you'll never know how strong you really are. Instead of just waiting anxiously, I started taking on small, freelance digital marketing jobs, picking up projects from local businesses. By day, I worked nonstop. By night, I took online courses in digital communications, personal branding, and optimizing online ads. Every time I completed a project and got a kind word from a client, I gained a little more confidence. I pushed myself to attend networking events and industry meetups around Seattle, even if I spent most evenings sitting alone among strangers. I learned to introduce myself without feeling embarrassed or inadequate. Some nights I'd get home late, exhausted, but looking back on a day full of effort, I realized just how much I'd changed. Through it all, Emily was my biggest supporter. Whenever things got hard, she'd listen patiently and remind me, "You're on the right path, Jessica. Don't go back to the darkness of your past." Nearly 2 months later, Pioneer X contacted me out of the blue. "We appreciate your effort over the past weeks. Pioneer X would like to offer you a chance as a marketing assistant for our new project in partnership with Trader Joe's. Congratulations, we look forward to seeing what you can do." The moment I received that message, I broke down and cried with happiness. Not because it was a fancy job, but because, for the first time, I'd been recognized for my own hard work and perseverance. I know the road ahead will still be long. There will be more challenges waiting for me. But for the first time, I feel strong enough to face whatever comes, because I am no longer the old Jessica. Now, I can face adversity with confidence, knowing the only way out is to keep moving forward and never return to the darkness I left behind. My time working at Pioneer X was a true test for me. The marketing project with Trader Joe's was anything but easy. I had to race against deadlines and adapt to a professional workflow I'd only ever heard about before. Melissa Grant, the same person who interviewed me, remained cold and distant. She sometimes gave me the hardest assignments on purpose and didn't hesitate to challenge me with tough questions in front of the whole team. There were moments I felt completely exhausted, lying awake at night wondering if I could really make it. But there was no turning back for me now. I dove headfirst into learning, using every spare minute to finish whatever task I was given. I reached out to partners myself, designed creative promotional campaigns, and wasn't afraid to pitch new ideas to the team. Even when some of my ideas got rejected, I refused to give up. Emily was always my anchor, constantly reminding me, "You've come so much farther than you think, Jess." Then, the biggest challenge hit right before our project was due to be presented to the board. A sudden technical issue caused all the customer survey data to vanish. Melissa immediately blamed me, the one in charge of this segment, in front of the entire team and leadership. I was stunned, unable to even defend myself before people began to doubt me. In my desperation, I combed through every email, every backup file, and finally discovered something odd. The data had been misplaced due to a system error, not human mistake. I explained this to the board and provided clear, transparent evidence. Still, no one was sure if I'd be forgiven. It was at that moment that Mr. Oliver Bennett, CEO of Pioneer X, walked into the meeting room himself. He listened to my explanation, examined every document carefully, and then spoke slowly. In a crisis, what matters isn't who made the mistake, but who has the courage to step up, take responsibility, and find a solution. Jessica, I truly appreciate your honesty and perseverance. This project's success owes a lot to your creative ideas. The entire room fell silent, and then everyone broke out into applause. Melissa had to publicly admit her mistake and apologize to me in front of everyone. For the first time, I truly felt my own worth. Not because someone protected me, but because of my own hard work, day after day. Word of the event quickly spread within the company, and soon even made it into industry news. Colleagues began to look at me with genuine respect. Emily called to congratulate me, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Jessica." I stood there in silence, tears falling. But this time, it was from happiness. I knew that finally, all of my quiet efforts had been recognized. Not because I was Alexis Morgan's little sister, but because I was me. The events at Pioneer X completely changed how people saw me, at work and in my personal life. I was promoted to project lead on the next campaign and became the speaker for the city's big tech conference. Congratulations and respectful glances slowly replaced the doubts and distance I'd grown used to. My family, especially my mom and dad, started to show more interest in my life. Mom posted about me on Facebook. Dad unexpectedly asked about my projects and even suggested taking me out to dinner to celebrate my daughter. Even though the scars remained, I knew I was no longer Alexis's faded shadow. After a long period of silence, Alexis reached out to me. One Sunday afternoon, she invited me to an old coffee shop, a place filled with childhood memories. She looked more tired than before, her eyes sleepless, her smile no longer bright. She admitted quietly, "Jessica, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I just wanted to be loved, so I pushed you away. I never realized how much I was hurting you." I listened, feeling a mix of distance and closeness. For years I'd waited for those words, but when I finally heard them, I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. I just felt lighter, as if I'd finally set down a heavy burden that had haunted me all my life. I looked at Alexis, calm and steady. "I forgive you, but I won't let anyone hurt me again. We've both grown up and everyone makes mistakes. What matters is we don't repeat the old ones." Tears welled in Alexis's eyes as she squeezed my hand. "Thank you. I hope I can make things right and start over." After that meeting, I chose to keep a healthy distance from my family. I stopped craving their approval, or chasing love from those who never truly valued me. Instead, I focused on myself, my real friends, and the things that brought meaning to my life. At work, I led my team through the biggest project Pioneer X had that year. My new team was full of young people. Some of them had once been invisible, like I was. I told them, never let anyone tell you you're not enough, not even your family. You have the right to set boundaries for your own happiness. Looking back, I'm amazed at the journey I've taken. From a timid girl, always afraid of what others might think, I became a confident woman, one who faced her past, forgave herself, and even found the strength to forgive those who once hurt her. As the storm finally passed, I began to truly understand what healing meant. I became proactive in joining community support programs, especially those mentoring young women in tech, the kind of space I'd once wished for myself. One day, a shy intern nervously asked me, "Jessica, what if I'm just an ordinary person, nothing special? Can I ever succeed?" I smiled, answering with all my heart, I used to think I was just a shadow too, but I realized that success isn't about becoming someone else. It's about being the best version of yourself, even if that just means getting a little better every day. I also began writing my story on a blog, sharing my journey of overcoming pain. I received hundreds of messages from strangers. Many of them had also been rejected by their own families, felt lost even in their own homes. The words, "Thank you, now I know I'm not alone," became the greatest motivation for me to keep moving forward. I started giving myself more time, learning to paint, reading new books, walking my dog through Queen Anne at sunset. I treated myself to small joys I'd once thought I didn't deserve. With each passing day, I could feel my old wounds truly healing, and I was no longer chained to my past. I learned to forgive, not just Alexis, but my mom, my dad, and everyone who had ever hurt me. Forgiveness wasn't about making them happy. It was about setting myself free. I no longer felt the need to prove myself to anyone. I just focused on becoming the best version of me. One night, sitting by the window, I told myself, if I could send one message to my younger self, I'd say, don't give up hope. As long as you still believe in yourself, someday you will find your way out of the darkness. If you've stayed with my story until this very moment, let me send you a warm hug, even if it's just through sound waves. Somewhere out there, you may also be quietly struggling with deep wounds, with pain that no one else seems to understand. Maybe, like I once did, you feel you're not good enough, not worthy of happiness, or just a shadow lost among the very people who should love you most. My name is Jessica Morgan, and my journey out of the darkness was never about becoming perfect. It was about learning to love myself, to forgive myself, and to keep moving forward, even when my heart was still covered in scars. If this story made you cry, or if you saw pieces of yourself in my moments of weakness or strength, I want you to know you are not alone. There will be days when you feel exhausted, when it seems like no one really listens or cares. There will be moments when you wish you'd been born into a different family, or that you were smart enough, pretty enough, impressive enough to be loved for who you are. Trust me, those thoughts are normal. I used to blame myself too. I even thought about giving up. But all it took was one caring look, one kind message from a friend, and I found a reason to keep living, just for myself. You have the right to feel hurt, to cry as loud as you want, to be angry or disappointed about what you've been through. But remind yourself you also have the right to get up, to start again, even if it's just one small step at a time. You never have to prove your worth to anyone, except the person you were yesterday. If you've ever felt overlooked, rejected, or judged by those you love most, I want you to know this. You are valuable. You deserve to be heard and respected. Don't let anyone, not even your own family, decide who you should be, how you should live, or whether you deserve happiness. Let every scar be a mark of your growth, because it's through these very wounds that you learn to love yourself, to be stronger, and to understand others more deeply. I was once a small, lonely, and timid Jessica lost in my own home. But now I can smile at my reflection, proud of every scar and every silent victory along the way. And you will too, as long as you don't give up. If this story touched your heart, please share your feelings, your experiences, or even your own story in the comments below. Tell me, and the other friends in the Heartless Revenge community, about your journey, whether you're just starting out or still stuck in a tough spot. Your words aren't just a gift to yourself, they're a source of hope for anyone still searching for the light. Don't forget to hit subscribe on Heartless Revenge so we can keep sharing stories of resilience, healing, and powerful inspiration. Here, you'll always find empathy, warm virtual hugs, and genuine encouragement. Because every one of us deserves a community that truly listens and lifts each other up. You are not alone. I, Jessica Morgan, and the Heartless Revenge channel will always be here, walking beside you through every step ahead, whether you're crying, laughing, stumbling, or celebrating your wins. Thank you for listening. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. And always remember, you are worthy of love, especially from yourself.